There is a strange story whispered in the path of Ibn Arabi about a traveler who kept missing the caravan every time. He would wake up early, prepare, rush to the meeting point, and each time the caravan had already left. Days passed, then weeks, then months. The same pattern. People began to look at him with pity. Some even laughed quietly. How can someone be this late every single time? And slowly, that question began to live inside him too. One night, sitting alone under the sky, he said, "Ya Allah, why do you let me try if I'm only going to miss it? Why bring me close just to leave me behind?" 19. The next morning, it happened again. He arrived, and the caravan was gone. This time, he didn't run after it. He didn't panic. He just stood there, watching the empty road. Something inside him had become tired of chasing, so he sat down in silence. Hours passed. The sun moved. The world continued, until suddenly, in the distance, he saw something no one else was there to see. The same caravan he had been chasing, attacked, scattered, lost. What he thought he missed was never meant to carry him safely. And in that moment, his heart shifted, because, for the first time, he understood something deeper than answers. Not every delay is absence. Some delays are protection you don't recognize until it's too late to return. And now, look at your own life. How many times did something almost happen? How many times were you close, but not chosen? How many times did you feel left behind while others moved forward? You called it delay. You called it bad timing. You called it failure. But what if you were never late? What if you were being held back from something that would have broken you in ways you couldn't recover from? Because the truth is, the path written for you is not always the one you see people walking. And sometimes, Allah doesn't show you where you're going. He simply makes sure you don't go where you're not meant to be. So the delay you feel right now is not empty. It is intentional, precise, and deeply protective. You are not being left behind. You are being kept away until the path that was written for you is ready to receive you. There's an old story told by people of reflection about a man who was walking through the desert at night. No one around him, no light except the sky, no sound except the wind. And suddenly, his camel slipped. Everything he owned, food, water, supplies, fell into the sand. Some of it broke, some of it scattered, some of it was lost completely. He dropped to his knees, and in that moment he said, "Ya Allah, why now?" Because in the desert, losing even a little feels like losing everything. So he sat there, frustrated, confused, almost angry. But he had no choice. He gathered what he could and kept walking, slower now, weaker now, more careful with every step. Hours passed. Then something unexpected happened. As the sun began to rise, he realized he had unknowingly changed direction. The path he was originally on led straight into a dangerous valley known for robbers. But the delay, the fall, the loss, slowed him down just enough to miss that path completely. He stood there, in silence, because what felt like a setback was actually protection. What felt like loss was actually redirection. And maybe that's exactly what's happening to you. Something slipped, something broke, something you depended on is no longer there. And you're sitting there asking, "Ya Allah, why this?" Because it doesn't feel like guidance. It feels like things are falling apart. But what if You were about to walk into something that would have broken you? What if the very thing you lost is the reason you are being saved? Because Allah doesn't always guide you by showing you the full path. Sometimes He guides you by removing what would have taken you somewhere you were never meant to be. So before you call it loss, look again, because sometimes the moment you think everything is slipping away is the exact moment Allah is quietly saving you. When your life never syncs with others, Allah is pulling you off a path that would have broken you. It shows up in the smallest moments. You plan something and it falls apart. You try to align your life with others, but something always shifts, not loudly, quietly, just enough to make you miss it. And at first, you tell yourself it's bad timing. Maybe you were too early. Maybe you were too late. Maybe you just didn't try hard enough. But then it keeps happening again and again. And slowly, a question begins to follow you. Why does nothing ever line up for me? Late at night, this is the part that hurts the most. When everything is silent and your thoughts get louder, you start comparing their progress, their timing, their success. And it feels like you're watching life move without you, like you're standing still while everyone else is being carried forward. And the hardest part? You can't explain why. Because from the outside, it looks like you're trying. It looks like you're doing everything right. But something unseen keeps interfering. And this is where most people break. Because when effort doesn't match results, the heart begins to lose hope. But what you don't see yet is what you were being protected from. Because not every door that opens leads to peace. Some doors only look good from the outside. And if your life had synced perfectly with others, you might have stepped into something that looked like progress, but would have quietly drained you, or distracted you, or pulled you away from something far greater that hasn't arrived yet. So the delay wasn't rejection, it was protection, a quiet redirection away from something that wasn't built for your soul. That's why it didn't feel obvious, because real protection doesn't always look like a closed door. Sometimes it looks like things just not working out. And one day, when you look back at everything that didn't happen, you won't feel regret. You'll feel relief, because you'll finally see what you were being saved from. When everything almost happens, then collapses. Allah is detaching your heart from the wrong destination. This one feels different because it doesn't feel like delay. It feels like loss. You get close, so close. You can almost touch it, the opportunity, the relationship, the moment you thought would finally change everything. And for a second, it feels real. Like this is it. Like everything is finally about to make sense, and your heart begins to attach. Quickly, deeply, you start imagining the future. You start building expectations. You start feeling like you've finally arrived somewhere. And then it slips. Not completely at once, but slowly, painfully. Like something is being taken from your hands, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. And you're left sitting there, trying to understand what just happened. This is where the pain hits differently, because it wasn't something you never had. It was something you almost had. And almost is what makes it heavier, because your heart tasted it, your mind believed it, your emotions invested in it. So when it disappears, it doesn't just feel like loss. It feels like something inside you was pulled out. And in that moment, you start holding tighter to everything else, trying to protect what remains, trying to control what you can, trying to stop the feeling from happening again. But what's really happening is deeper than the moment itself. Your heart is being trained, every attachment being exposed, every dependency being revealed. You begin to see how much your peace depended on outcomes, how much your happiness depended on things going your way. And this is where the real work begins, because the path you are being prepared for cannot be walked with a heart that clings to temporary things. It requires a different kind of strength, a heart that can feel deeply, but not depend completely. So what feels like something being taken from you is actually something being removed from within you. An attachment, an expectation, a silent dependence that would have controlled your peace later. And that is why it hurts more. Because it's not just the loss of the thing, it's the loss of the part of you that needed it. When everything almost happens, then collapses. Allah is detaching your heart from the wrong destination. This one doesn't feel like a delay. It feels personal, because you didn't just hope for it. You saw it forming. You felt it becoming real. You were already stepping into it. You get close, so close. It feels like you've finally reached the moment you've been waiting for. The opportunity opens. The connection feels right. The situation starts aligning in a way that makes your heart say, "This is it." And for the first time in a long time, you allow yourself to relax. You stop overthinking. You start believing. And without even noticing, your heart begins to settle there. You imagine what life will look like. You build expectations quietly. You attach not just to the thing, but to the version of yourself inside it. And then it begins to slip, slowly, subtly, not all at once, just small signs at first. A change in tone, a delay in response, a shift in energy you can't fully explain. You try to ignore it. You tell yourself it's nothing. You try to hold it together. But deep down, you feel it. Something is being taken back, and the closer you try to hold it, the faster it fades. Until one day, it's gone, and you're left with a silence that feels heavier than the loss itself. Because now you're not just asking, why didn't it happen? You're asking, why did it almost happen? Why bring me this close, just to take it away? Why let me feel it, just to lose it? And this question stays with you. It repeats in your mind, over and over. But what you're experiencing is not random. It's precise. Because there are some things in life you wouldn't let go of unless you felt how real they could have been. If it never came close, you would always wonder, you would always chase it. You would always think, maybe that was the one thing I missed. So you were allowed to approach it, to feel it, to almost have it, so that when it was removed, your heart could finally release it completely. Not because you were forced to, but because you experienced enough to understand it was not meant to stay. And there is another layer to this, one that is harder to accept. Sometimes what you almost received was not good for you in the form you saw it. It looked right. It felt right. But beneath that feeling, there were things you couldn't see, things that would have drained you later, things that would have tied your peace to something unstable, things that would have slowly taken from you without you realizing. So, instead of giving it to you fully, it was shown to you, then removed from you. And what remains now is not just the absence of that thing, but a shift inside your heart, a loosening, a breaking of dependency. Because before this, your heart was holding on to outcomes. Now, it's learning to stand without them. And this is why the pain feels deeper. Because it's not just the loss of something external, it's the transformation of something internal. You are being taught to feel without becoming controlled by what you feel, to desire without becoming dependent on what you desire, to move forward without needing everything to stay. And that kind of heart is not built in comfort, it is built in moments like this. Moments where something almost becomes yours, then disappears, not to hurt you, but to free you, so that the next time something comes into your life, you won't hold it out of fear. You will receive it with strength, with balance, with a heart that is no longer owned by what it loves. And one day, you will realize something quietly. If that thing had stayed, you would have lost something greater, not outside, but inside yourself. When you feel 100% ready, but nothing opens, Allah is holding you back from a timing that is not safe for you. There comes a moment in your life where you look at yourself and you know you are not the same person anymore. The habits you once struggled with, you've outgrown them. The mindset that used to hold you back, it no longer controls you. You've put in the work, quietly, consistently, without anyone really noticing. And now, you feel it inside you. A sense of readiness, like you've finally reached the point where something should change, where something should open, where something should move. You wake up expecting a shift. You move through your day, waiting for a sign, but nothing happens. No door opens, no opportunity appears, no clear direction reveals itself, just stillness. And at first, you stay patient. You tell yourself, it's coming. But as days pass, then weeks, then maybe even longer, that stillness starts to feel heavy. Because it doesn't match what you feel inside. Inside, you're ready. Outside, nothing is responding. And this is where confusion begins, because it feels like a contradiction. How can I feel so prepared, yet be so stuck? So your mind starts searching for answers. Maybe I'm not ready enough. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. And slowly, doubt begins to replace clarity. You start questioning your growth, your effort, even your direction. And this is where many people break their own path, because the silence becomes too uncomfortable. So they force movement. They rush into decisions. They accept things that are not fully aligned, just to escape the feeling of being stuck. But what you don't see is that this stillness is not empty. It is precise. Because readiness is not only about you, it's about timing that includes things beyond you. People you haven't met yet, situations that haven't unfolded yet, conversations that haven't happened yet, details that are being arranged without your awareness. And if things moved when you felt ready, they would not give you what you expect. They would take something from you instead, because you might step into something incomplete, something premature, something that looks right now but won't sustain you later. So you are held, not because you are behind, but because you are being protected from the wrong moment. And this kind of delay feels different, because it challenges your trust. You can't see what's being arranged. You can't measure progress. You can't explain why nothing is happening. You are simply asked to wait, to continue showing up, to keep growing without visible reward. And this is where something deeper is built inside you, because when movement is removed, intention becomes clear. You begin to see why you were doing things. Was it for results, or was it for something deeper? Because now there are no results, just you and your consistency. And this is where sincerity is formed, a quiet strength, a discipline that doesn't depend on outcomes. Because the truth is, the moment that is written for you will not feel forced. It will not require you to chase. It will not leave you confused. It will come with a clarity that removes doubt. But until that moment arrives, you are being refined in the waiting. And one day, when everything finally opens, you will understand something that is hard to see right now. If it had happened when you wanted, you would not have been ready for what it required, not in the way that truly matters. So the delay you feel is not emptiness. It is preparation happening in a dimension you cannot see. And your only role right now is to remain steady until what is written for you meets you at the exact moment you were meant to receive it. When people fade without a reason, Allah is quietly changing your environment for your next level. It doesn't begin with a clear ending. No argument, no moment where everything breaks, no final conversation that explains what changed. It begins with a feeling, a quiet shift you can't fully describe. You sit with the same people, in the same places, having the same conversations, but something inside you feels different, not wrong, just distant. The laughter doesn't reach you the same way. The connection feels thinner. The energy feels heavier, even when nothing negative is happening. And this confuses you, because there is no reason to feel this way. So you try to fix it. You try to be more present. You try to reconnect. You remind yourself of how it used to feel, how easy it was, how natural it was. But no matter how much you try, it doesn't fully return, not completely. And that's when the quiet realization starts to form. Something has changed, not outside, inside you. And this is the part that feels lonely, because it's not a clear loss. It's not something you can grieve openly. It's a slow, silent separation, one that happens while everything still looks normal. And you begin to question yourself. Am I the one changing? Am I becoming distant? Why can't I feel the same anymore? But what you don't realize yet is that this shift is not a mistake. It's alignment, because not every connection is meant to grow with you. Some people were part of a specific phase of your life. They matched who you were, not who you are becoming. And as your path begins to change, your environment has to change with it, not dramatically, but gradually, quietly, without announcements, without explanations. Because if everything ended clearly, you would resist it. You would hold on. You would try to bring it back. So instead, the connection fades, gently, until one day, you realize it's no longer the same. And what makes this harder is the memories. You remember how real it felt, how meaningful it was, how much it once mattered to you. So, a part of you wants to hold on to that version of it, to keep it alive. But what you're holding on to is not what exists anymore. It's what existed before you changed. And this is where many people delay their own growth. They stay connected to what feels familiar, even when it no longer feels aligned. They force conversations. They maintain presence in places their heart has already moved away from. And slowly, that creates heaviness, because your soul knows you are not meant to stay here. But your comfort keeps pulling you back. So the distance increases, not as punishment, but as protection. Because the next stage of your life requires a different environment, different conversations, different energy, different people who reflect who you are becoming, not who you used to be. And the space being created right now is not empty. Even though it feels like it, it is being cleared. so that what belongs in your next chapter has room to enter. And this is why it feels like people are fading without a reason, because the reason is not something you can always explain. It's something you feel, a quiet knowing that you are no longer where you used to be. And one day, when you are fully in that next stage, you will understand why certain connections could not continue, not because they were bad, but because they were complete. They served their purpose, they shaped a part of you, and then they made space for what comes next. So what feels like loss right now is actually transition, a silent movement from one version of your life into another, and your only role in this moment is not to force what is fading, but to accept that your path is changing, even if no one else can see it yet. When what once excited you now feels empty, Allah is removing your love for what can't go with you. It doesn't happen suddenly. There's no moment where everything just switches off. It fades, quietly. You go back to something you used to enjoy, something that once gave you energy, something that used to pull you in without effort. And this time, it doesn't reach you the same way. You try again. Maybe it's just a mood. Maybe you're tired. Maybe something is off today, but the feeling doesn't come back. The excitement is weaker. The satisfaction disappears faster. And instead of feeling full, you feel empty. And this is where confusion begins, because nothing on the outside has changed. The same things are there, the same options, the same environment, but inside, something is no longer responding, and you start asking yourself questions you can't easily answer. Why don't I feel anything anymore? Why do I get bored so quickly? Why does everything feel pointless? And if you're not careful, you will misread this moment. You will think something is wrong with you. You will think you've lost motivation. You will think you're becoming lazy. But what's actually happening is deeper than that. Your heart is changing its attachments. The things that once satisfied you were connected to a version of you that no longer exists. A version that found comfort in certain desires, certain distractions, certain patterns. But now, you're being prepared for something that requires a different heart. A heart that is not easily entertained. A heart that is not easily satisfied by temporary things. So the interest fades, not because you are losing something, but because you are being freed from it. And this stage feels uncomfortable, because you are caught between two worlds. You are no longer attached to what used to excite you, but you haven't fully connected to what will fulfill you next. So everything in between feels empty. And emptiness is difficult to sit with, because the mind wants stimulation. It wants something to hold on to, something to feel alive again. So, you might try to go back, to force the old feelings, to revisit what once worked, but it doesn't land the same way, because your heart has already moved forward, even if your surroundings haven't caught up yet. And this is where patience becomes heavy, because growth at this stage is invisible. No one sees it. No one understands it. From the outside, it might even look like you're doing less, like you're disconnected, like you've lost direction. But inside, something is being rewritten. Your desires are being refined. Your focus is being redirected. Your heart is being prepared to seek something deeper, something that won't collapse after you reach it. And this is why the old things feel empty, because they cannot carry you where you're going. If they still satisfied you, you would stay. You would settle. You would build your life around something that was never meant to last. So instead, the attachment is removed, slowly, until one day, you realize you're no longer chasing what you used to chase. And even though it feels strange, there is also a quiet peace hidden inside it. Because you are no longer controlled by what once pulled you. You are no longer driven by things that used to define you. And that space that feels empty right now is not truly empty. It is being cleared so that something more meaningful can enter. Something that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you used to be. So don't rush to fill this emptiness. Don't force yourself back into what no longer fits. Sit with it, even if it feels uncomfortable, because this stage is not loss. It is transition, a quiet movement, from temporary satisfaction to something far more lasting. And one day, when your heart finally connects to what it was being prepared for, you will understand why everything else had to lose its hold on you first. When your life stops making sense completely, Allah is teaching you to walk without seeing the path. There comes a stage where nothing connects the way it used to. You try to understand your life, but the pieces don't fit anymore. What you expected didn't happen. What you planned didn't work. What you thought would bring clarity only added more questions. And slowly, you reach a point where even your own thoughts feel uncertain. You sit there, trying to explain your situation, even to yourself. But the more you think, the less clear everything becomes. And this is where the discomfort deepens. Because you're not just dealing with delay anymore. You're dealing with confusion. A kind of confusion that doesn't have a clear answer. A kind that doesn't go away after one realization. It lingers. It follows you through your day. And it becomes louder at night, when everything around you is quiet. You start asking questions that don't have immediate answers. Where am I going? What am I supposed to do next? Why does nothing make sense anymore? And when those answers don't come, your mind begins to panic. Because the mind wants control. It wants structure. It wants a clear map. It wants to know, if I take this step, where will it lead? But right now, that map is gone. You can't see far ahead. You can't predict outcomes. You can't even explain what stage of life you're in. And this is where many people try to escape. They rush into clarity. They force decisions. They attach themselves to anything that gives them a sense of direction, even if it's not truly right, because being lost feels unbearable. But what if this stage is not about finding answers? What if it's about becoming someone who can move forward without them? Because when everything makes sense, you move with confidence. But that confidence is based on what you can see, what you can calculate, what you can control. And that kind of confidence is fragile. It breaks the moment things don't go as expected. So now, you are being taught something deeper, to walk without needing to see the entire path, to take a step without knowing exactly where it leads, to trust without having full clarity. And this is not easy, because it requires you to let go of something you've depended on for a long time. Understanding. You are used to making sense of things. You are used to connecting the dots. You are used to feeling certain before you move. But now, certainty has been removed, and what remains is choice. Will you stop moving until everything becomes clear, or will you continue, even in uncertainty? This is where trust is built, not when everything is obvious, but when nothing is, because if you only trust when you understand, then your trust is limited. It depends on your knowledge, your perception, your ability to figure things out. But the path you are being guided toward requires a different kind of trust, one that exists even when you don't understand, one that continues even when things don't make sense. And this is why your life feels confusing right now, because your dependence on clarity is being replaced with something stronger, a quiet reliance, a deeper surrender, a movement that is not driven by certainty, but by trust. And slowly, you begin to notice something. Even without full clarity, you are still moving. Even without understanding, you are still being guided. Even without seeing the path, you are not completely lost. Because there is a difference between being lost and being led through a path you cannot yet understand. And you are not lost. You are being led, step by step, moment by moment, through a path that will only make sense once you've already walked it. So don't rush to fix the confusion. Don't force yourself into false clarity. Don't settle for answers that feel comfortable but incomplete. Stay present. Stay steady. Keep moving, even if the steps feel small. Because one day, you will look back at this stage and realize something that is hard to see right now. It wasn't confusion. It was guidance without explanation. It was trust being built in the absence of proof. And it was preparing you for a life that cannot be lived by someone who needs to see everything before they believe.